You are now entering the horror sanctum.
Hello and welcome back to the Horror Sanctum podcast. I'm Jay with John, Kellen, and TJ, and we are also joined today by our pal, Lana Del Fear. Lana, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So happy to be here.
Of course. I think if I remember correctly, we were messaging and I said something about this movie, or you asked about this movie that we're going to talk about, and I was like, you got to watch it. It was a lot of
Yes.
fun.
Yes.
So this week, it's still a new movie, so spoilers as always. We're going to be talking about it came out this year, right? 2024's Destroy All Neighbors, starring Jonah Hill, Rodrigues, Alex Winter, which is a struggling rock musician finds himself in a living nightmare when he accidentally kills the neighbor from hell.
So yeah, I think we all talked about this movie a little while back. We kind of watched it around the same time when it dropped. It was on Shudder, right? This was a Shudder film. And yeah, I have always had mixed feelings about Shudder films. Some of them are really awesome. Some of them are just like really terrible. But this one, I really did. I enjoyed it first watch. Watched it twice. The first time I saw it, the vibes that I got were it was kind of like if you took Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey and then you mix it with like The Vagrant a little bit, Bill Paxton movie, and then you throw in a little bit of Evil Dead.
You just had to get the Vagrant in there, didn't you?
Oh, well, it is. It's kind of. It's not exactly The Vagrant. The Vagrant is a little bit different, but it's really the movie is really all about Alex Winter, right? Vlad, the character, he's the one that makes it. Like I love that scene when he's like hanging out with Emily and the cops come over and he's like you had to call the cops like a little bitch. There's just his whole character is hilarious. Like he's like goading him into fighting him, and then it's like he wants to die almost. Like he wants someone to kill him. Like that's almost the vibe that I get when I first meet the character. The main guy, Jonah Ray, I think is his name. He was in Mrs. Shrunks Theater.
He's added Rodrigues to his name now.
Okay.
He's also in Satanic Hispanics, which if you've kept up with us, we just interviewed Mike Mendez, I guess about a month ago when this episode comes out, who did the wraparound story.
Yeah, Jonah Ray, I don't know. I mean, he's not bad. I just don't like him it's not my cup of tea. He's kind of just like one of those, like, I don't know. He's got that like dorky, I don't know, assuming personality. I don't like that. I'm not a fan of it. It's not that he's a bad actor. I just those kind of actors just kind of annoy me usually when they come around. That being said, I mean, he did a good job in the movie. The mom from Karate Kid is in the movie. She's the landlord. She's kind of got a funny part. Of course, like I said, Alex Winter, it's his movie, right? He is like the best part of it because he's playing the Vlad character. He's playing a lawyer in the movie. And the Vlad character is very reminiscent of like Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. Because like those characters he plays in that movie, it's very much like that crazy vibe. And of course he was in Freaks. He's been in a lot of stuff, but he's definitely got like this knack for just jumping into, because like I feel like him as himself is good, but when he's got a mask on or something just comes out of him. Like he's so much more comfortable and just jumps into things. So I really like when he's in these type of films, and I hope he does more of this just because, he doesn't do enough films really. He was in the Lost Boys, he was in Bill and Ted, but he's one of these guys that just he doesn't do enough things, so I really hope this is like a resurgence for him in a way. Yeah, it's interesting. The prog rock thing's hilarious. I'm not really I don't mind Rush. Rush is cool, but like it's hilarious when people are like really into Rush and like, these type of bands. I just think that's such a funny. It's almost prog rock. To me, it's almost like enjoying jazz or classical. It's just so unique that you're like, oh, you're that guy, like when you're into it. So it's kind of funny that they made a whole shtick about it and, him being sort of dorky and into it. But, the story itself, it's a lot of fun. It's goofy, it's wild. It's not really something that And Kellen and I talked about this earlier. I don't think it's really something that you can rewatch a ton, just because once you kind of know where it's going, it's one of those movies you gotta have to space out. So you don't want to like watch it and then watch it again like 2 months later. This is one of those movies where you watch it, then you go away for like maybe a few years, you come back, and it's fun, right? So you just gotta give it time to breathe. Um, but yeah, overall, I did enjoy the movie. It had its imperfections. I didn't like the Emily character, the girlfriend. I can't stand those. Not her as an actress. It's just when people write those characters in movies, I get why they're there. They're the obstacle. They're kind of the normal part of the protagonist's life. But I don't know. It's just her character was so annoying. Like at all the wrong times, she was always mad at him, and I was just like, oh my god, like they're doing this whole thing again. So that was my only real gripe of the movie was just like that character. And I think the ending is just so insane. There was no great way to pay it off, right? I mean, they build to this ending and all these things are happening and he's got to finish his album. So there's no real way to logically pay it off. But I didn't feel like the ending totally stuck. But overall, I did like it. I thought it was good. Like I said, just some minor complaints. I'm curious if anyone hated it. Hopefully not.
We shall see. Speaking of like not everybody getting prog rock, I wonder if like that's the kind of music they chose because not everybody will get this movie. Y'all know what I mean? Like this is definitely my wheelhouse. Horror comedy, splatterpunk, whatever you want to call it, is definitely my cup of tea. So number one, the opening credits and everything was so trippy. Like I was already sucked in. Like when Jay told me to watch this, I was like, hell yeah, this is my kind of movie. I love it. And to give my own like comparison of what it reminded me of, Burn After Reading meets like Cabin in the Woods is kind of like the vibe that I get, because you get this like the music they put in there gives you so much, a little bit of dread and doom, but then it's just something hilarious like Vlad moving next door. But it's very smart humor to me. So I watched it twice. I watched it the other day to kind of refresh myself on the movie, and there were some things that I missed the first time around, like in the beginning when his neighbor is moving out because he sold, what was it, like an alien erotica movie or something? or maybe I'm dreaming that up. And then William asked him, he's like, how'd you do it, man? And he's like, lots of hard work and my trust fund, my dad's trust fund, but a lot of hard work. Like that got me. But this was my husband's first time watching it, and he doesn't get it. So and like I said earlier, you guys, he doesn't like prog rock, so of course he's not gonna get it. Okay, so I liked most of the characters, I would say. William was a little like self-absorbed, because Emily kept asking for the printer paper. I love gags like that keep popping up throughout the movie, and then finally she comes back to get the printer paper and he's like the dead bodies or whatever are around him. So I love all that. I loved Eleanor. I loved her, like her almost like Return of the Living Dead character toward the end. Like I thought that was amazing. Um, the pig that lived in the apartment building for some strange reason. Augie was hilarious. He would see, I think I said Cabin in the Woods because he kind of reminded me of Malachi from Cabin in the Woods, kind of like a prophet of sorts, but he just wants a croissant. So whatever. And then the guy Swig that was on the bass lesson thing on the iPhone, that was hilarious. When he was, telling him how to get rid of a dead body, and the practical effects when he's cutting up Vlad and it's just like blood splattering all over him, like amazing. I just like, I don't know, you guys, like I didn't laugh at everything, but on the inside, I was just like, this is wonderful. And I think, Jay, I think you and I said this, like there were some parts that were a little long. I mean, this movie is only an hour and 25 minutes. it felt longer to me because there's some parts like when he's laying on the floor with Vlad's decapitated head and dead Augie, like, and they're just talking and jabbering or whatever. Like, I didn't need all that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I can fast forward through this and still enjoy the movie.
Yeah, it was the only thing the only comedy movie I can think of that I've experienced that same feeling was Bridesmaids, where I feel like all the jokes were just like 18 minutes long.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people don't agree with me on that for Bridesmaids, but that's just how I felt. This is the same way. Like it was like $1.28, but it did feel like it was a 2-hour movie for some reason.
Yes. Yeah. It's like, wrap it up. Like, we get it. I loved Caleb Bang Jansen, the guy in the recording studio. Hilarious. Their banter was awesome. And someone like him, like, you didn't see him often through the movie, like, but when he was there, it was hilarious. And of course the dueling fuck yous between William and the security guard. Is it Kumail?
Kumail, yeah, that was my favorite
Kumail?
part of the entire movie. Like
Chef's
the only
kiss, like
I would watch them just go back and forth at one another because they're friends. They have a comedy special
Oh,
on Comedy Central called The Meltdown with Jonah and Kumail. So they
amazing.
know each other well, and I guarantee that whole scene was all improvised. Like
That's why it worked. That's why it worked so well. Selling the tape for $400.
That dude's a great actor too, from The Big Sick.
Yeah, he's great.
And what was the TV show? Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley. Yeah, and I was worried. This is like completely off the rails, but when TJ Miller was asked to leave or got fired, whatever, I was so concerned about how the show would still be as funny. And him and Martin Starr carried it the rest of the way.
So good. If no one's seen that, you need to.
He was in Franklin and Bash too. He was like their assistant.
So amazing.
With Zach Morris as an attorney.
Franklin and Bash. What a reference. I remember that.
That show was great. Underappreciated show. Also, Zach Morris turned 50 today, so fuck all of us, right?
Shut up. I'm not well. Yes. So also the whole band, I'm sorry if I'm all over the place. The whole band sequence with the torso playing drums with the entrails. Sorry, that's my dog Finn, if anyone hears him.
Bupper.
Say hello. Get off me. But yeah, I mean, some of this movie was off the rails, but in a good way for me. So I really enjoyed it. Of course, my husband Ben was like, "What the frick is this?" And I'm like, "This is art. That's what I call it."
You're not alone in that. I bet no one else's significant other would have liked this movie.
Okay.
I'll tell a Lindsay story when it's
Oh, good. I knew he wasn't gonna be super into this, but I was like, maybe, just maybe, we'll see. And something else I missed the first view around, and it's funny because when I watched it the first time and the pictures knocked off the wall when William and Vlad were having their little altercation. And his photo falls off the wall, and Vlad was like, "Oh, why would you do that?" And then William's picture falls off the wall. It says, was it Big Bear or Big Lake? And then that's the story that she told in the end, the 25-minute long story or whatever it was. So I liked that connection. I love little things like that. And then, speaking of the fight between William and Vlad, it was just so good. John, you mentioned it. With the EDM playing, like, it's just so good. He's push me against the wall. And William doesn't want to, obviously. And then the whole impalement and then the decapitation. And I did want to bring this up. So when William is disposing of or trying to dispose of the bodies at the lake, for some reason, I thought it was going to take a turn and make us think that William was kind of like a Dexter character. Like, he seemed innocent, but he's actually a serial killer. And that didn't happen. But I don't know if any of y'all got that vibe at all, because William seemed to know, like, he felt real good about what he was doing and was confident in it. And then obviously, like, the kills throughout the movie were just accidents. So that didn't come to fruition. But I'm with John in that the ending I wasn't like jumping up and down about like a payoff or anything. It was just like, oh, he's in jail. I would like him to be out of jail. And maybe there'll be a sequel. Who knows? I'm not gonna hold my breath. But overall, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, I like horror comedies. It's one of my favorite things. It's also one of the hardest things to do well because it's like such a tightrope to walk between holding the two together. And I thought this film balanced it pretty good in Act One and Act Two. I thought it kind of went off the rails and exploded a little bit in Act Three, where it just it just ramps up after seemingly like lulling for a little bit. It just ramps up to like this insane, I have to make my prog rock record now in 25 minutes while my ex-girlfriend who's left me because I'm killing dudes you know, tells this long ass story to distract the cops. I mean, and then Vlad, who was seemingly in his weird death. I mean, we don't even. I was still left with the sense that like I wasn't 100% sure, and I watched this twice. Now I watched it when it first came out, and I watched it yesterday, and both times I wasn't 100% sure if that was just Jonah's character hallucinating that this stuff was happening with the dead people, and he was just playing their parts and talking to himself, because there are multiple parts where it seemed like he was talking to a dead character, but there was a witness that just felt like he was talking to himself and didn't hear anything, which made me think they were going to go, he's just hallucinating, he's going crazy, and he is just a weird serial killer now. But then they didn't like really sell that at the end. At the end, you just I don't really know. Did it really happen? Was this mysterious supernatural thing happening to him where he's like the weird, middle-aged Hispanic Haley Joel Osment, where he's seeing dead people that are just tormenting him for some reason? They don't really, ever tell you 100%, but it seems like the action of the film couldn't have happened if it wasn't real. So I was kind of just confused by all of that. And then all of a sudden for Vlad to like turn into like some weird uh Middle European Satan at the end of anti-prog rock or EDM, whatever he was. Uh I think, I mean, this is like John said, this is the Alex Winter movie. This is all about Alex Winter in costume playing that crazy ass character, and it is pure comedy gold. Everything where, and I like Jonah. I mean, Jonah, I think I think this is one of the cruxes of the issue. Jonah is a great sidekick character. I don't know that he's strong enough to even playing the nerd, which he is, to carry a whole film. And I think that's why this movie feels lopsided whenever Vlad's not in the scenes. When Vlad's in the scenes, Vlad is the scene. But when it's just on Jonah, it's just kind of, okay, let's get to the next fun, weird bit of comedy, calamity, slapstick, or whatever. I like that Alex Winter got to have a little cameo as the lawyer and uh, be out of makeup just to be like, "Hey guys, I'm still here. I'm a real person sometimes too." That was fun. But yeah, I also didn't like the girlfriend character because she was just so two-dimensional, maybe even one-dimensional. Uh, there were some good things, like Lena was talking about, in the writing. Like they used the law of threes a lot, that I like to use in comedy, where it was the third time that she comes to try and get the paper. That was the third callback to the copy paper, when she finally comes and then ends up calling the cops on her boyfriend because there's dead people all around that he's obviously cut up and has done some not great stuff to. So yeah, I feel like the first 2/3 of this movie is really fun and is higher than, I don't think it quite sticks the landing. But I do end up liking the main characters. I would entertain watching a sequel. I don't think the way they end it that they'll ever make a sequel. It would be kind of weird. Like, how do you get that guy out of prison? And what's that next movie? Or is it like a road movie where he's just with his dead, cut up parts of his weird group of friends that he's murdered? I don't know. I like the universe of it. It did have that weird thing that Lana and Jay, I think, talked about, where it felt like 2 hours, even though it wasn't quite 90 minutes. And that's a problem with the writing, problem with characters. There was a lull there right before they just ramped up the crazy too much. And probably I will have to say I'm not a big prog rock fan. Both of my next door neighbors, Rush is their favorite band. And they always want to talk to me about Rush, like 2112 being the greatest.
Are they members of the
thing.
band Rush? Do you live beside the members of the band Rush?
Well, they are both professional musicians, and they would like. I think they were in a Rush cover band together at one point in time. So they
Get
love
Getty's
Rush.
autograph for me, please.
They love Rush. I mean, that was before my era. It's not really my thing. I can appreciate it over there somewhere and appreciate it for what it is, but I'm not a prog rock guy by any stretch of the imagination. So I feel like they went hard in the wool on the prog rock thing. Like, the whole third act's about making this epic prog rock record. The whole first 3 minutes is just prog rock, the whole opening sequence, and a lot in the middle is just trying to make prog rock. So I'm like, if you don't like prog rock, which I don't, it definitely puts a few notches down on how you experience this movie, especially rewatchability, because after you know everything's going to happen, really you just want to rewatch this for the Vlad scenes, because that's pretty much the reason to watch this movie. But that's enough about what I got to say. Kellen, how bad are you going to shit on this movie?
There's a lot of prog rock hate going on right now that I can't stand for, because there's so many great prog rock bands. You've mentioned Rush, Jethro Tull, Genesis, Pink Floyd, King Crimson. Dream Theater was a newer band. The Mars Volta, if y'all remember them.
Close your eyes and name the rest
Kansas. Of them. Alan Parsons Project. Eat a Dick, Jay. That was a really good one.
That was a good one. Can I say that Jethro Tull was my first concert ever?
I've seen Jethro Tull live too at River Stages in Nashville. And Ian still did the one-legged flute playing, and it was fantastic.
You got to.
But listening to what everybody said, I agree with a lot of it. I think the girlfriend comes across as naggy or whiny because they don't develop their relationship at all. You're just expected to understand that he's kind of a waif, that he's been dragging his feet probably in their relationship as much as he's been dragging trying to make an album. Prog rock album. She's obviously probably, if you're trying to develop the characters yourself, she's probably been super supportive of him as he, kind of bounces around, not really having any motivation to do much else other than work on his album that he's never going to finish. So they don't do the characters justice by developing them in a way where you actually care for them at all. Also, the build up to him killing his neighbor was super quick. I feel like that they could have played more on that, especially with how good that character was by Alex Winter. Vlad was just such an insane character. The makeup, the voice, the way he portrayed it was so good. I think they could have developed it more before killing him, to where and that would have brought more horror to it. I don't feel that like this is so much of a horror movie, because it's not super scary. There's elements of that in the beginning when Vlad first appears that I feel like they could have done more with. I feel like the movie focused too much on the middle and not enough on the front and back end. Now, all as I'm saying, I absolutely enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a fun ride. The gags that were in it are right up my alley. Slapstick humor gets me every time. But they spent too much. I think they spent too much wanting it to be ambiguous in the middle, and that goes to what y'all were saying about, like TJ said, that I thought this was going to be in his head too. I thought this was going to be he's his girlfriend's left and he's snapped. He has a mental break, and this is all in his head. He's talking to disembodied head. The guy that is his prog rock mentor that he's watching the videos on, it ends up being the homeless guy that he kills with his van. I felt like, okay, this is all gonna at the end be in his head, and then no, he goes to prison for murder because he killed 3 people, legit killed 3 people. So I feel like if they would have focused less on trying to do the special effects of the disembodied head talking to him the whole time and spent more time developing Vlad as like an evil neighbor that was tormenting him and not just somebody that's playing their music too loud and he accidentally kills him. I think if it would have been more of him finally snapping and just going over there and just hacking him to death, the guy bullying him to the point where he does break and it's not just an accidental thing, I think that would have been better. And that makeup, I didn't even recognize that it was Alex Winter until it was pointed out in the group chat. I had no clue at any point in time when I watched that movie. The way I remember it happening, Jay watched it and then said in the group chat, just watch this movie, y'all need to watch it. And I think we all kind of within the next 24 hours watched the movie. So yeah, we did kind of all watch it at the same time. And then it wasn't until later on in the group chat when somebody was like, and Alex Winter did such, I was like, I'm sorry, who did what now? When was he in the movie? Like, I have to watch this again. He was y'all have all said it. It was the Alex Winter movie. He was fantastic. Prog rock was the most random genre of music they could have picked for him to be obsessed with. It's not one of those genres that people necessarily know that they like music from because it's such a varying genre. It's not like hard rock where you kind of understand what you're listening to, or bluegrass where when you hear it you're listening to it. Most people, you don't even realize you're listening to prog rock. And then somebody's like, oh, that's prog rock, and that's the person who's like, actually, you immediately want to slap when you meet. The movie reminds me of Dave Made a Maze, another great movie that Jay made me watch. In the practical effects, in the pacing, and the way it was done. I think Dave Made a Maze is a better movie. It also reminded me of one of my favorite obscure Ryan Reynolds films, Voices, which if you haven't seen Voices, that movie is fantastic. And
that
it's
was
a great
the exact thing that I was thinking. It reminded me a lot of that.
Yeah, and that's what I was thinking when I was like, it's all in his head. I was thinking of the movie Voices, like this is all in his head. And that's such a fantastic movie that didn't get enough love when it came out. I think it was one of those just direct to DVD, Blu-ray kind of films. But I mean, great cast, Ryan Reynolds, Anna Kendrick, just a phenomenal story and a really good look at mental health. So if you get a chance to watch Voices, absolutely watch that. This movie is, like a lot of movies like it, a Murphy's Law film. This is one of those, anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and that's what happens to him in this movie. It's like a snowball effect. Like once Vlad's dead, then he commits to cutting him up, then the landlady bites it, then he kills his musical idol / the homeless man that was bothering him for food. Then he kills the neighbor with the pig. It was just like it just kept snowballing. It like this unassuming guy could not stop murdering people. It was like I'm fairly certain if the movie had been 20 minutes longer, he would have walked into the street and somebody would have wrecked their car into a light post trying to avoid him and launched through the window and been decapitated as well, and he'd had another severed head to talk to. Me and John talked about this earlier. The problem is this is such a forgettable movie. it's so fun to watch, but 5 years from now, I'm not going to remember that I've watched this movie. And the reason I know that is because 3 times now in the group chat, this movie has been brought up, and I have either said, "Oh, I need to watch that," or "Oh, what movie is that?" And I had watched it. I had already watched the movie, and 3 separate times. I was like, "Destroy All Neighbors, what's that about?" So, and I'm not trying to say anything against the movie. It's a fun movie. It's worth the hour and 28 minutes to watch. It's fun, if not for anything else other than to watch Alex Winter be a genius in that role, and Kumail Nanjiani be hysterical as always. He's everything I've seen him in. He's always delightful. He's just a naturally funny guy. Like most of the time, any line he delivers, you want to laugh, even if it's like, "Hey, I killed your grandmother." You'd be like, "Come on!" It's just the way he is, and I've always enjoyed everything I've seen him in. So, yeah, I think it's a fun movie. I think it's worth the watch, and I appreciate Jay pointing it out because it's not a movie that would have ever been on my radar or that I'd ever seen. So, Jay, bring it home.
Well, first of all, you're welcome. Second of all, I don't know how no one knew it was Alex Winter. I knew going in when I saw the photo, it's him. Mainly because Freaked. Like I remember Freaked and how he looked in there. I'm like, that's totally him. And I think you and TJ both were like, "That was Alex Winter." I'm like, what?
I didn't know
Where did
either.
you think he was? Where
I
did you guys
didn't
think he was?
He
He's
was
on
the
poster.
lawyer.
I was like, what?
That was funny to me. I thought it reminded me a lot of Pick of Destiny. So I'm like, Pick of Destiny and The Grudge had a baby, something like that. My biggest issue was, like we said earlier, was how long things took. While I loved every second of the fight scene, I thought it was a little too long. The ending with him making the music was a little too long for me. TJ, you thought? I think it was all it was all in his head. Like,
But how could it have all been in his head and he got like arrested for 3
I don't
murders?
think it was,
The murder
I don't
was
think it was
real.
all- I don't think it was all in his head, any of it.
so I think the murder.
I don't think he
real,
could have
but
made
him
the record
talking-
without all the dead people helping him.
I don't know. I came out both times watching it thinking, okay, he really did kill these people, but now they're kind of haunting him, and he's using it to his advantage. I don't know. That's what I thought.
It's ambiguous. It could be that way.
I don't recall. It's been a while since I've watched it again, but I don't recall if anybody ever addresses any of the other characters, or if they're even around. Like, that's the big key. Like when you're watching a horror movie, you're like, no one's talking to that person except that one guy. That's a ghost. I don't recall anybody really interacting with them besides him, but I don't know. I had a lot of fun with this movie. I knew about it because I've followed Jonah Ray since his Nerdist days, or him and Hardwick and another guy who always wore a Red Sox hat. That's all I remember about him. They had a podcast.
R.I.P. I missed the Nerdist podcast so much.
Well, they screwed up when they got rid of Hardwick before facts came to light. But
They didn't get rid of him. He had already kind of left. What they did was they took his name off as founder when all that stuff happened, and then they never apologized. And just like Jay, I have not forgiven Nerdist since, and I have not
I unfollowed them.
commented on any post they have ever made since that point. They can all eat a bag of crotches.
Yep. I unfollowed them, and I know they knew I unfollowed them. I made an impact by doing that. But
Just say, hey, we made a mistake, Chris. We're sorry.
yeah,
We jumped the gun.
if you don't know what we're talking about,
Chris
Google
is the
it.
worst human being ever. Then it wasn't true, and they were like, so anyway, have you seen this movie yet?
Yeah, I hated that so much. This movie reminded me a lot of Freaked too. I know John's seen Freaked. Has anybody else seen?
Yeah,
Freaked?
I used to have the DVD of Freaked.
So I'm going to pivot from that to what Kellen said about forgetting this movie. First of all, you forget it because you have ADD and ADHD. Okay, let's be honest.
You got them both. You got all the ADs.
Wow.
But we all do, and
Double
that's fine.
dose.
I was
But-
born in the 80s with all the 80s.
In my comparison to Freaked, I have never forgotten that movie since the day I watched it on HBO on a Saturday night when it debuted. That movie has lived rent free up here. I own a copy on Blu-ray. I got Bobcat Goldthwait to sign it. So took me forever to find that movie on Blu-ray, but it's always stuck with me. This is the same. This is a movie that I'm going to remember 10 years from now. I'm like, what was that movie with the Russian head flying around? Oh, Destroy All Neighbors. The only reason you might forget it, in my opinion, is just the name.
They should have called this Vlad's Revenge.
Something, but it also, when you say Destroy All Neighbors, I think of Destroy All Humans, the video game. That's the first place my mind goes. So I still think the best part was the Kumail and hymns back and forth, which I've already interrupted earlier and talked about. They have a long history. You can go watch the Meltdown shows. They did it in the back of a comic book store. So it was a little comedy venue on the back end of a comic book store. And it's hilarious. And they have, guests and other comedians come on. But anyways, that was probably my favorite part, just because I know they were just ad-libbed and I know their history, and I just giggled the whole time. Surprisingly, especially from Kellen, this hasn't been mentioned. I thought the one who stole the show was Thomas Lennon. Every scene he was in cracked me up because he would
Who was
say
he?
he was
He
the
was the
record,
producer.
the
He's
producer,
the guy from Reno
Oh
911.
yeah, Reno 911
Dangle
guy.
from
Yeah, yeah.
But like we're gonna make like what winning awards. That's what rock and roll is all about. Like he just everything like destroying hotel rooms. That's not what rock and roll is about. Like just those little things just sprinkled into that movie made this one so much more enjoyable. I think TJ, you said you started to like Jonah Ray's character towards the end. I had the opposite effect. I enjoyed him, and the more I got to know him, and he's just so narcissistic and doesn't realize it, then that's just kind of what lost me for him. Um, I don't know if he's a leading man. I would like to think so. Like I like him. I would watch a sequel. I don't think they'll do it either. But
I just think he couldn't go toe to toe in any scene where Alex Winter was doing that.
oh no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
I think he's a buddy actor. I think he
Yeah,
needs somebody to play off
He's
of
a
and
number
could be
two.
played
He's
off
a
of.
strong number two.
I would have kind of liked if I don't know how they would have done it, but if Thomas Lennon could have been the lead, that would have been. I think he deserves. He's like really funny to deserve a lead.
Yeah, that would have been fun. I don't know. It just that third act just kind of raised the stakes a little too high. That's probably my biggest knock besides the long jokes, but the whole final scene just felt a little much to me. The band and then the thing
Forced
coming,
and rushed.
yeah, and then rush, and then all the bodies coming together to make a what's the Power Rangers thing called?
Oh yeah.
Megazord.
Megazord.
Yes,
Like that
yes.
was strange to me. Like when it happened, I'm like, oh, that's neat. But when you take a step back and look at it, I'm like, yeah, that was kind of weird, you know. I don't know. The girlfriend was annoying, but again, and Kellen hit the nail on the head on that one. It was because they didn't develop her or their relationship, so we don't like her from the jump because we're supposed to, you know, we feel like we're automatically supposed to like Jonah's character more. And she's gonna, did you forget paper? Yes, you know, but obviously there's a history there of him doing that and her kind of getting tired of it. She probably was very supportive in the beginning, like TJ said, and then she's like, all right, I'm over it. Like something's got to change. So I don't know. I think that's all I have. So we'll go around, give our ratings, and then we'll close up shop. I don't remember what I gave it the first time around, and I'm not gonna look it up, but I gave it a 4 this time, which may be high compared to everybody else. I probably gave it more. I think I gave it a 5 on Instagram, and then I tagged Jonah Ray, and he liked it. So I'm like, I knew he was going to see that. So I'm like, it was a 5, man. Come on the show, okay. But I think my honest answer would be a 4 because I enjoyed it. Like I said, Freaked is one of my favorite, most obscure movies out there, and it reminded me so much of that. And you know, with me doing my movie reviews I do all the time, I watch a lot of dark shit, and sometimes I need movies like this to keep a gun out of my mouth. You know, like this whole week I was just kind of like, I don't want to watch. I've watched like all 80s movies because I don't want any dark because I've been watching Oz, and Kellen and John know my allergies were acting up when I was watching Oz today. But anyways, I gave it a 4. It was a lot of fun. I'd watch it again. I shared it with everyone on this screen, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, what about you, John?
Yeah, so you guys were talking about Alex Winter not knowing he was in it. I didn't know. I think you had shared it, and I looked up the movie, Jay, and I knew he was in it before I watched it. But there's something about his performances when he's in like makeup, because like in Bogus Journey when he's the granny, and here and Freak, there's a specific energy to them that's very like chaotic, to where when you see it, you're like, oh, that's Alex Winter. You just like know. But I could also understand like maybe if you just went in cold, there's no way you know who's into that makeup, right? But later on, when you rewatch them, you're like, oh, okay, you can sort of see the pattern. Kind of like Nick Cage when he puts on makeup, or, you know. I did wonder, like you were talking about the different ways the movie could have gone. I wonder what it would have been like if they would have done, and it would have been a different film, but if Vlad would have sort of been very slow in the way he was, like tormenting the main character, like, you know, basically like he wants to take over his life. He gets in good with a girlfriend. He gets the girlfriend. Everyone in the apartment likes him. He somehow gets the job where he's a musician doing like the what is it, EDM and all that. and then they have to fight at the end. I don't know how they would have done that, but that would have been kind of interesting to play into that and just get rid of all the other side characters that turn into Ghost, right? I mean, it's a different movie, but I was just thinking about that. That being said, I like it. I do think maybe a few years from now it'll be worth rewatching, just not anytime soon. So 3 out of 5, right at 3 out of 5.
I think I'm gonna go with Jay and give it a 4 out of 5. I'm sure all y'all are like me, like with something that comes straight to streaming with a great cast, great visuals, the practical effects. Like I like it a lot more. Now, if I saw this in the theaters and paid like $20 and got popcorn and all that jazz, I probably would have been a little disappointed. But anytime I can get something like this that's straight to streaming, it makes my day. Am I gonna watch it again? I might. And I told y'all I fast forward through that one scene when they're laying on the floor. I did fast forward through the scene of the 25-minute long story last night. And maybe that's what made it a little bit better for me, which is I did the same thing with Skinamarink. I fast forwarded through all those corner
Ugh.
shots,
Ugh.
So you missed the entire movie.
Yeah, the 15 minutes I saw were wonderful. But yeah, I give it a solid 4 out of 5. This is my jam, horror comedy, and I love the spooky stuff. But like Jay said, I need something like this that I'm not going to go to bed and y'all, my imagination is wild. Like if I watch something scary and I wake up in the middle of the night, it's not good. It's like sleep paralysis demon is just over there hanging out. And people are like, you watch all this scary stuff and you're scared. I'm like, yeah, because my imagination is insane. So yeah, loved it. What do you think, TJ?
Well, just on a physics standpoint, I do believe it's technically accurate that when you fast forward through all of the shitty parts of all movies, that all movies are great suddenly. So
Yes.
it's actually a great coping mechanism for sucky
You need
movies.
me as your movie reviewer because it will be a good review.
I did like this movie. It's fun. I don't know how rewatchable it is. I'm kind of with John. I couldn't watch this like multiple times a year, even though I just watched it twice for the show. It is fun, but I feel like I have to kind of forget about it before revisiting it. I do think the third act wildly falls apart and just tries to do too much out of nowhere and then doesn't really resolve in a way that I love. And I do think most of the issues with it are just in the writing and poor character development. And that really doubling down on that prog rock third act that just I don't feel like they set up enough. So I do like it. I can't go 4. It's a 3 out of 5 for me though.
Calvin?
Yeah. Okay. So, quick, possible controversial question: is Alex Winter a better actual actor than Keanu Reeves?
Probably.
And
Probably.
full disclosure, I adore Keanu Reeves. I think he is great, but he almost always plays Keanu Reeves as somebody.
We can't have
Yeah, I
another.
know.
We can't
I
have
don't-
another stand. Yeah.
I almost don't want to answer this question because
I mean,
like you,
Keanu
I don't
Reeves
know
is
what
a
to
great
say.
human.
I don't know what to say.
Cut it. Cut.
Look, everybody loves Keanu. He is
Yeah.
he is the Dolly Parton in the acting world as far as he is beloved by all, and he is in some of the most iconic movies. But you watch this and it's like, wow, Alex Winter really has some range. It's surprising he didn't get more roles than he
Well,
did.
it's the difference between somebody like playing themselves like a George Clooney essentially in every movie versus a character actor that just puts on the skin of a wild character.
Well, I mean, Daniel Day-Lewis could be considered the greatest character actor of
Yeah.
all time because he becomes every character he's ever
Johnny
played.
Depp.
He is
Johnny Depp.
no
Greatest of all.
Johnny Depp is not in the same hemisphere as Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis is insanely talented. Johnny Depp's fantastic, but Daniel Day-Lewis could act circles around him. Quirky, Johnny Depp's got quirky in spades. Speaking of quirky, this movie's quirky, and I give it a 3.
Good
Bravo.
transition.
Yeah.
Puts us at a 3.4, so we'll call it 3.5. Lena, you said what resonated with me when you said if you had paid money to go see this, you would have had a bigger issue with it. I agree with that completely.
Yeah.
Deadstream is another movie that was like that. Like if I saw Deadstream in the theaters, I don't know how excited I would have been, but when I saw it at home in the dark, I'm like, this is fun, you know. But all right, that's going to do it for this episode. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, to wherever you're listening to this podcast. Follow us on Instagram, follow us on TikTok, and join our group on Facebook. Next week, I don't know what we're doing. It's so sporadic these days, but come back next week. I'm sure it'll be a great episode, as they all are. Lena, thank you so much for joining us again.
Thank you.
And thanks for listening to me when I suggest movies, you and Kellen and everybody else. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I probably would have told Kellen to watch Suitable Flesh, and we saw that massacre. So, all right, signing off. I'm Jay with John, Kellen, TJ, and Lana Del Fear. And until next time,
Keep it spooky.
Okay,
And
Lana,
too sweet.
Wow.
you said you like
Wolfpack.
you said your jam is horror comedies.
Yes.
Shaun of the Dead, 1 out of 5.
Oh, Shaun of the Dead, I haven't seen in a long time.
there's only one answer.
It's great. Yeah, 5 out of 5.
And the 5s keep going. We all gave it a 5. Yeah, that's fantastic.
It's one of the
Yes.
best. It's one of the best
It
ever.
is, yes.
I can't name one Jethro Tull song. I'm not lying. I
What?
I hear
No.
that
Can't
name.
either.
Aqualung,
Dude,
Aqualung, my
okay, that's what
friend.
it is. Okay, I hear that name all the time, and I'm like, what?
Rumble
is
in
this?
the Jungle.
Okay, yeah,
I
Bungle,
see his
sorry,
albums
Bungle
at
in the
Goodwill
Jungle.
every time I go.
yeah.
Oh.
That is true.
Let's see. So let's see. Ian Anderson, his son-in-law is Lincoln from Walking Dead. What's the dad's name from Walking
Andrew
Dead?
Lincoln.
Andrew Lincoln.
Yes, that's his son-in-law. So there's a little horror
Wow.
connection there. Yeah.
Wow.
My mom's a huge fan, so that's why it was my first concert.
My
But it was
dad had
great.
Jethro Tull Live, had that vinyl, and I bought a $10 box record player from Goodwill back in the 90s. Because records were cheaper back in the day. You could buy basically any album you wanted for $2 to $5 at Great Escape. And so I used to listen to Jethro
Throwback.
Tull Live. It had Ian Anderson on his knees in a little white spandex suit or something with a big ball behind him. I loved that album.
My former pastor's favorite band was Jethro Tull. That's all I know about Jethro Tull.
Let's just for your bonus content. What was everybody else's first concert?
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's here.
Okay, I know mine. Bare Naked Ladies with
Oh.
Rufus Wainwright, and it was amazing.
Wow.
Nice.
Brooks and Dunn and the Tractors.
Nice.
Nice.
Mine was at 328 Performance Hall, and it was a surprise concert done by 1029 The Buzz. And me and Jay have seen this band recently. Lit. It was
Nice.
3 bands. It was like
That's
Better
cool.
Than Ezra, Lit, and another band in that same time frame. And they were the ones that ended up surprising everybody and coming out and did a
That's pretty sweet.
fantastic show. Such a
That's pretty
fantastic
awesome.
show.
Does Lit have more than one good song?
They have like 5. They're one of those bands that you don't realize how many songs that they had. that
I
were on the
remember
radio.
Pamela Anderson was
listen.
in a music video of theirs, but I don't remember the song.
Yeah, I mean they have enough to play. What, an hour and a half set last time we saw them?
Yeah.
Everybody's got
Damn.
album cuts that nobody knows.
Well, when I worked at Walmart, what I remember, and I remember very few things from Walmart, but this has always stuck with me. Semisonic had a greatest hits album. And
Back then? Like what?
it was more than just one song over and over and over again.
It wasn't just closing time forever.
Wow.
Oh.
It was
Well, you had to have
nuts.
opening time. You know, that's the opener.
And middle of the shift,
Lunch break.
15-minute break,
Oh no.
smoke break.
All right, TJ, what was your first concert?
Man, I'm really racking my brain. I honestly don't remember, but I have to imagine it was some '90s country star of some form.
What was
'cause
your
I
last concert? Jesus.
I have to look
Kellen-
at the
Kellen
I
and
have
I's-
very bad short-term memory.
Ours was
Oh, my
Tool,
last concert.
Prog.
I remember my last
Tool.
concert was it was an all acoustic pre-release album show for Judah and the Lion at Belmont University.
Oh,
couple
yeah,
weeks
you told us
ago.
I
about that.
remember you mentioned that.
That was good.
John,
Speaking
what
of
was the last
Tool-
show you went to? Was it Ari?
It was
Springwater?
probably Greta Van Fleet. Like at COVID.
Oh yeah.
I love Greta Van Fleet, but I know they're a I know.
Oh,
I know.
man.
Haters.
Speaking of Tool, Maynard James Keenan, did y'all see the post that they did with Pussifer, Promise, and A Perfect Circle, where they were all
Oh.
going back and forth talking, and apparently they're going to be all on stage at the same time. Oh,
Aren't they,
I would die to see that.
They're coming.
They're
aren't
coming
they coming
in.
to
They're
Franklin?
coming to the
Yeah.
quarry.
Is
Yeah.
that an AA
Yeah,
meeting
there's
It
no
was,
way I
a
could.
concert?
There's no way I could get
It was
tickets.
like Lucifer and Perfect Circle.
I will go
I
with
which
you.
is
mean-
What are you
easy
talking about?
enough. That's just Maynard James Keenan getting in
Yeah,
front
he's
of
just gonna
group
stay
of
on
people.
stage. They're gonna work him out.
Lena, what was your last show?
I think it was Ice Nine Kills in August. I think.
So you're going to Full Moon to see him?
Yes, you know it. I can't wait.
I need to sit down with Jay and have
some of
him
the
go over all the
movies.
bands we've seen together, because there's so many bands. Like Ice Nine Kills, never heard of before, and then Jay was like, "Hey, you want to go to this show?" I was like, "Yeah, I do."
They're so good.
I have great taste.
They were really good.
What can I say? I'm really. Oh, I didn't. I was
so
gonna tell
modest,
you-
so modest.
So I gotta. I'm gonna go eat
Jay
dinner.
introduced me to Foxy Shazam. That's like the one that took for me that he introduced me to.
I remember them.
Amazing. I'm gonna go eat, but before I do that, I said I was gonna tell a Lindsay story. I don't know if she can hear me. Or not. Can you guys hear me right here? Does it sound okay? Okay, so talking about how your husband didn't like the movie, I was like, I'm sure no one here significant other. Maybe Megan would have liked it, but other than that,
Maybe possibly.
so, I don't know. I know at least I sent it to you guys in a text, but in the Facebook group, I posted the video. It was like Bigfoot ate all the plastic out of my trash can and called my mom a slut. Like,
yeah,
did
that
you-
was great. That's
Okay.
great.
That was hilarious. I laughed so hard at that. Showed it, deadpan, nothing. She's just like,
Nothing.
and then she
That's
just we made eye
hilarious.
contact, and I'm like, oh fuck it.
You have to
Throw it
know
away,
those
threw it across
people
the room.
though. Like I grew up with those people. I know who those people are.
Yeah, I bet. We all do, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, Lena. Thank you again.
Thanks so much.
Thank you guys.
Don't be a stranger. Come back sooner than every year.
I know, right? Yes, absolutely. I'd love to.
And we'll have to actually. You didn't pick the first. Did you pick the first one, the movie, or we just said, hey, we're doing this?
That was
It
the
Valentine's.
Valentine's
Valentine's?
Yeah,
episode.
so next time
Right.
you come on, we'll let you pick a movie.
We didn't even do a Valentine's episode this year. We got so caught
Okay.
up with other stuff.
Yeah, we had
And to
too
be
many.
fair, there's only like 3 Valentine horror movies.
I just
we're
watched
working-
it. I just watched another one, X-Ray.
Oh yeah, with Barbie Benton. Yeah. I remember
Oh
that
my,
one.
she was. But yeah,
know
I just
nothing
watched
about
that this
this.
week, and that's a
Yeah.
Valentine's movie. So there's more out there.
Okay.
Mhm.
And now at least we have a Thanksgiving movie this year.
That's true.
Nice.
What movie?
Shut up. Thanksgiving.
I thought we did that already.
Did we not do
No,
it? We
we didn't
talked
do
I
that.
about
thought we did.
it.
I thought we talked about that movie already. Did
No.
we not?
For fuck's
did?
sake.
We
No,
did.
Wow.
we talked
No.
about it. We haven't done an episode.
We
on
didn't
it.
do an episode on
Okay.
Thanksgiving.
Bitch,
Yeah.
I feel like I went in depth. Like,
The
I feel
We
like
definitive
watched it in
Thanksgiving
January.
movie.
Like, oh, it's January 31st. Here's our Thanksgiving episode.
Plus, we
I
do
could've
so
sworn-
many slasher movies. I think it might just be running together. Like 'cause
Slashers.
we do Scream, Six, yeah, slashers. Yep. So.
All right, everybody. I'm out.
Awesome. Bye, guys.
Later.
Yeah.